Oh, I love some good walk-on music. So folks, great to be with you. My honor to be here with you, representing Verizon, and very excited to talk about this topic, delivering true cyber resilience for your digital-first agency. I have learned that this moves very quickly. 10 minutes is fast, so just really 3 segments to our discussion today. First and foremost, let's unpack together one of the largest sets of data for cybersecurity incidents and cybersecurity breaches. That's the Verizon Data Breach Investigations report. We're then going to pause in the middle, and we're going to talk about the so what. What's the business impact? What's the impact on our agencies as a result of what we've learned from the data? And then finally, we're going to wrap up with 4 distinct strategies for cybersecurity resilience, and we will wrap there. So I'm going to keep moving. We're going to jump right into Verizon Dbir insights. I want to ask to kick us off here, how many folks in the room are familiar with the Verizon Data Breach Investigations report? I see quite a few of you. That's excellent. Let's double down. How many of you have leveraged data from the Verizon Dbir in order to present to your board, to present a cybersecurity investment case, to present to leadership? I still see a few hands. That's very, very good, making me proud. This is the 16th year that Verizon has published the Dbir, and this is rooted in a deep belief that we have within our company and within our culture that this is an ecosystem issue. Cybersecurity, we are better together, and so for 16 years in a row, we've published this report. Contributors from 81 different countries around the world in this last year, over 16,000 incidents, over 5,000 data breaches, so just a treasure trove of data. Over the 16 years of the Dbir, we're talking about over 1 million incidents and over 250,000 data breaches. So many lessons learned, so much insight that we can gather from this data together. So if I keep moving here, I'm going to move quickly across. I want to be sure we hit some of these statistics. So first up, 74%, 3 in 4 data breaches this year involved the human element. So we're talking error, we're talking privilege misuse, stolen credentials, social engineering. 3 out of every 4 breaches. 83% are external attacks. So insider threat is alive and well, but the majority of the attacks are from external actors. And when you see the motivation there, it's really all about making money. 95% of breaches were financially motivated, so we're talking external actors, cybercriminals who are in it to make money. Next up is a topic I know you all know well, ransomware. Ransomware is still ubiquitous across agencies, across every industry sector. 1 in 4, about 24% of breaches involved ransomware this year. And it's a combination of traditional ransomware, destructive malware, but also we're seeing more and more extortion. So if you don't pay our ransom, we will release your data publicly. So 1 in 4, very, very steady, very consistent across the data set. Business email compromise. Here we're talking about adversaries crafting very, very specific spear phishing messages. They're phishing our folks, they're smishing our folks through text messages, and look at the data, over a 200% increase in business email compromise this year. So massive growth year over year. Here are the 3 primary ways in. First up is stolen credentials. So really a huge part of that human element that we talked about up front. Next up is phishing. 12% of breaches involved phishing. And then look at exploiting vulnerabilities, only 5%. So what we should take away from this is the adversary is going after our people far more often than they're going after our tech, because it's faster and because it's effective. That's what the data tells us from this year's Dbir. And then one last slide here. This is a double click on the data for public sector, for government. And there's one thing in particular I want to call out here. A lot of great data on the slide. I'm going to provide you with the link for the full report because there's so much data here. But this is the sector where we saw the most, what I call hybrid attacks. We talked about the majority of attacks are external, but when you look at 16% in the public sector, it's including an external actor working in partnership, colluding with an insider threat. So that's higher in the data set for the public sector, and I think it's notable for all of us. Okay, we're going to pause just for a moment here in the middle. Hopefully everyone's doing okay. We're going to keep moving here and talk about the so what, the business impact of all of that data, the story of the data from the Verizon Data Breach Investigations Report. Folks, when you think about your missions, when you think about the reputations of your agencies, your organizations, when you think about your customers, and when you think about the large-scale transformations that are taking place within your agency, there has never been a moment in history where cybersecurity resilience was more critical to both protecting and enabling these things. We're talking about your customers, we're talking about your missions, your reputations, and the transformations that you wake up eager and excited to execute upon every single day. So what can we do about it? 4 key resilience strategies here that we're going to touch on. And my goal here is for this to be very actionable. So I would ask you, some people type notes on your phone, others just make mental notes, others jot down on a pad. But give yourself a little bit of a health check as you're listening to these 4 strategies. I really hope that it'll be something that's actionable that you can use when we leave here and go back to our homes, our offices later today. So strategy number 1, zero trust. And when I say zero trust, I do not mean a single product or a single platform. I'm talking about the exciting, the thrilling, the paradigm shift in cybersecurity, where every single user login, we're taking signals or telemetry that's dynamically provisioned from all 5 pillars, security tech in all 5 pillars of the zero trust framework to make a decision on whether a user can access a resource. At Verizon, we refer to this as identity intelligence. And so when you think about your zero trust strategies, think back to the data. We talked about social engineering, stolen credentials. This is absolutely critical, and this should guide our investments, once again, across all 5 pillars. Users and devices, we're talking about identity and access management systems, MDM. In the middle, networks, we're talking about ZTNA, CASB, our proxy. Pivoting over to applications, we're talking about micro-segmentation. And then in data, things like data discovery, data classification, data encryption. So health check, how are we doing on our zero trust strategy? Second up is ransomware resiliency. And we all know there is no silver bullet. We're talking about a defense in-depth strategy. We're talking about a combination of tech, process, and people. When I mean tech, I mean email security, endpoint security, proxy. When I talk process, playbooks, we're talking about threat intelligence infusing our enterprises, our agencies. And people, we're talking about training. We're talking about communications. We're talking about really a culture of cybersecurity. So key takeaway here, and let's do a health check on ransomware resilience. How are we doing in developing this layered defense in-depth approach to really contain quickly and to minimize the impact of ransomware on our agencies? Next up, AI, cybersecurity, and governance. This amazing conversation that's happening around agencies, the private sector as well, worldwide. How are we going to leverage the excitement of AI? And really, we all know that Gen AI is what's hot on the scene right now. So a few things here. Do you have an AI council at the top of the house that's been really set up cross-functionally to oversee AI end-to-end? That should include things like prioritization of AI use cases, value realization, risk management, technology feasibility. And speaking of risk, is risk management embedded? Are your cybersecurity guardrails a part of your responsible AI programs and really embedded through that governance structure of the AI Council? And that is a segue to 4th and final strategy. Let's do a health check together en masse. To deliver true cyber resilience for your digital-first agency, the question is, do you feel that your cybersecurity is bolted on, or is it embedded? Is it integrated into the decision-making frameworks, into the business rhythms of your agency? So things like your agency strategy, things like your tech strategy, things like your workforce strategy. Are we bolted on, or are we fully integrated? Last slide, folks, I promised this. This is a link to download the DBIR. I obviously raced through the data set, but you can download the DBIR at this link. You can actually email the authors of the report if you have specific questions about the data. Once again, from a Verizon perspective, we believe this is an ecosystem issue, and that's why we share this year after year. And so we're all in this together, folks. Thank you so much for your time, and hope you have a great afternoon.